Welcome to Suburban Warrior, the podcast that will impact, inspire, and empower you to transform your mindset and become the badass warrior that you are. I'm your host and fellow warrior, Crissy Piper, former clinician and corporate marketing exec turned multi-passionate entrepreneur, performance and life coach, and mom to 4 not-so-little warriors. Each week, I will bring you honest conversations with inspiring guests to share their stories of resilience, optimism, success, and simple yet effective strategies so that you transform your thoughts and change your behavior to get the results you want in your life. You will be empowered to take action, warrior up, and believe in you. Let's do this. What's up, fellow Suburban Warriors? What a treat today's podcast episode is. I cannot wait to dive into this conversation because my guest today has such an amazing warrior story to share, and she truly encompasses it all: success, mindset, spirituality, and wealth. Let me introduce to you Polly Alexandre. Polly Alexandre is a certified master coach and intuitive healer with a BA in psychology, with 17 years experience as an entrepreneur. Her life purpose is to activate wealth in others. The journey into uncovering her money blocks began when she decided she was finally done with the cycle of struggle and never enough. She uncovered that her money story started generations back in her family and started long before she was born. Along the way, she uncovered the intuitive ability to read how people are blocking more money flowing into their life and to support them to release their blocks fast and easily. By clearing her own money blocks, Polly went from being a chronic under-earner and a story of never enough to her first 6-figure month and buying her dream home on the magical island of Ibiza. Polly now helps changemakers, visionary creatives, and spiritual leaders fulfill their soul's purpose by building successful businesses and using their gifts to change the world. Clients flock to her for her effervescent inspiration, her compassionate presence, and her superpower intuitive skills. Polly is also the host of the Feminine Millionaire podcast. Wow, that is amazing. Welcome to the podcast, Polly.
Hi, Crissy. Thank you so much for such a beautiful introduction and for having me here. I'm really excited for our conversation.
I am so excited for our conversation because reading your story and really how you came to do the amazing work and magical work that you do now was really, truly inspiring because it was not an easy road for you. But why don't we just dive right into that? Why don't you tell us a little bit about your inspirational story that got you here today?
Yeah, it's interesting because the way it all started did not put me on the track to be talking about money or helping people with money in any way whatsoever. I think I grew up with a lot of the messages that many of us did. So I was told that you get a good job. That's how you're safe and secure. I was told that money's hard to come by. It doesn't grow on trees. I was told you have to work really hard for money.
Yes. All of which I can completely empathize with because that was the message in our house as well.
Yeah, super common. It's like play safe, work really hard, and hopefully you'll be okay.
Yeah, exactly.
So this idea of running your own business or doing something you love, that was not part of the dialogue. My mother didn't work. She was like a traditional mother in that era. And in fact, she had a bit of a part-time job for a bit of money. My dad would work long hours. Work didn't seem particularly joyful. And it felt like there was never enough money to go around. There wasn't enough money to do the things I wanted to. I remember missing out on things and not getting what I wanted. And money was a serious thing. It was talked about behind closed doors. They had a monthly meeting to talk about the credit card bills. And, it was like, get out, children. They'd come out looking stressed. And then my dad didn't believe spending money on holidays. So that wasn't really a part of our life or on fun or on pleasure.
Wow. Yeah, that's tough for sure.
Money was for education. So there was benefits in that. It was good to spend money on education. You'd spend it on your home and you should spend as little as possible. That was the other message. Be frugal, hold on to it. It could all go away and there's never enough.
Right. So really going back to the mindset around money is one of scarcity as opposed to one of abundance. Right.
Totally.
And that was the message.
Totally. And I didn't question that because the way we're brought up, we don't question. That's just how it is.
Yeah,
so that became a fact. And then I created circumstances in my life that mirrored that back. So I had multiple part-time jobs during university because money was hard to come by, wasn't it? So you have to work really hard. So that's what I was doing.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to go to art college, but my parents didn't see that as a valid path. So they wouldn't support me. So they said, we'll only support you if you go to university. So that was one of my first pivotal experiences in making that decision, big life decision around there not being enough money. I took the path where there was going to be money to support me, not the one that my heart wanted.
Right, exactly.
So I sort of bumbled along, mainly ignoring money through my 20s. I got a job. I did toy with doing what I loved. So I did study and explore fashion and photography, which were my passions at the time. But it didn't seem like that was a way you could earn a living. I definitely didn't know any creative people. I didn't know any entrepreneurial or freelance people. And so I got a sensible job in corporate. And I worked in pretty interesting industry, actually. I worked in the advertising industry, but it was still pretty corporate and you had to toe the line. It wasn't my passion, but I got the money at the end of the month. And that's about as much as engagement as I had with money. It was like, oh, it just comes in. As long as you behave yourself, you keep your head down. The money comes at the end of the month. And also there's never enough. It always runs out before you get to the end of the month.
I always need more.
Right. Yeah. But I didn't really question it too much. But it's when I jumped off to become an entrepreneur. So I got to 28 and I decided, okay, like I can't stand this any longer. I've got to do something I love. And I think a part of me just knew that more was possible. It was possible to earn money doing what you love. I don't know how I knew that because it wasn't really modeled. I think I just started to pick up books. I just started to read some of the work of Deepak Chopra, his 7 Secrets of Spiritual Success. I think The Secret was just coming out around that time. It was kind of late 90s, I think.
Yeah.
So I'd started and I've been doing yoga for a while. I go to the occasional workshop. I think there's just this seed of an idea was there of like, you don't have to live this way. Like you can do something that you love. And so I leapt off. And after a bit of trial and error, I decided to become a photographer. It had always been a passion. I went back to university. And that's when I started to have to ask for money for myself and set my rates. That's when it triggered all my money blocks. Now, I didn't know this language at the time. I didn't know there was such a thing as a money mindset. But now I look back, I realize that's when I couldn't hide from money anymore.
Yeah, right. Because all of a sudden you have to ask for how much you're worth, right? Yeah. And what your time is worth when you're an entrepreneur. And that's a really difficult shift for a lot of people.
Yeah. It was like, how do I decide what I'm worth? These kind of questions were coming up. And then I started to think, well, do you have to charge the same as everyone else to be competitive? Or I'm new, I can't charge as much as them. All these kind of unconscious money rules and judgments came in. And then I had to sit in front of clients because I was a wedding photographer, so you'd have a meeting with a bride and groom, and then you talk about the work, how you work, you talk about their plans, and then you get to that point of you've been avoiding when you're like, and they say, so what are your rates?
Yeah.
Like deep breaths, sweaty palms. Oh no. Am I going to get rejected now?
Yeah, exactly. It's crazy.
And then I would say my rates, and then, sometimes they'd negotiate or they'd ask me to justify it. So it was really a crash course in learning to feel comfortable asking for money. And gradually, as I grew my business, I became more and more comfortable when I learned how to raise my rates. And so I got kind of in my comfort zone. But what I didn't know at the time, looking back, there were other money blocks playing out. So I'd learned how to ask. I'd grown my worth, but I was still hiding. And one of the things about money is that it needs fair to see you. And so if you're hiding from money, money can't flow to you. So I always say to people, you've got to be visible in the world with your gifts so that people and money can find you. And I was pretty hidden. I did really well considering how hidden I was, but the business could have grown a lot bigger. But it took a big shake up from the universe for my money mindset journey to begin in earnest, really. So I think that we're always in dialogue and relationship with money, whether we realize it or not. So you sort of heard for the first kind of 40 years of my life, there was this dialogue going on. I just wasn't so conscious of it. But I had a stage in my life right after I thought all my dreams had come true. It was 11 years ago. I had made my dream come true of owning a second home on the island of Ibiza. I'd moved out here. My boyfriend at the time had proposed as soon as we got here. I thought, oh my gosh, like, how can I get better than this? And by this time I had a really successful photography business. So in my mind, I was like, this is as good as it gets, which is also another money block. But I just thought, oh, this is amazing. And then within 6 months, everything started getting stripped away. So first of all, my mother died suddenly, completely out of the blue. Like one day she was there, the next she wasn't.
Oh my gosh. So sorry about that.
I was in this place, in this new place I'd moved to. I didn't speak the language yet. I was on planes every week for my photography career. So I was not integrated. I didn't have support systems here yet. Then my father, within 3 months, my mother's death, my father got cancer, obviously from the grief. And, he was struggling. There were other family members who struggled significantly at that time. And then I just got married and then my husband walked out. So I'd been in a long-term relationship and he decided it wasn't for him. So suddenly I'd had this whole series of events where everything I knew got kind of stripped away. And
that's pretty intense. I mean, that is everything coming at once, really.
Yeah, it really was. It was the rug being pulled out up from under my feet.
And interestingly enough, at a time when you thought, like you said, this is as good as it gets. Life is so great. And then it wasn't.
Yeah, totally. And, we moved out from England on the 30th of December 2010. And when we got here, we went for this celebratory lunch at this beautiful clifftop restaurant. And you go there for late paella and glass of rosé. And I remember sitting there and saying to my partner, the sun setting over the sea, and I said to him, I just don't want anything to change.
Oh.
And I remember those words so clearly because within minutes of that, I didn't know he was about to propose. So everything was about to start changing literally within minutes of that. And he'd actually told me he'd never get married as well. So this is not something that we talked about or I saw coming. Right. But I think that it's like, I look back and I'm like, how do I remember saying that? It's like, I think unconsciously we know things that consciously we don't.
Oh, I completely agree. And that's why you remember saying it, because you know that even though you said that, everything was about to change. Yeah. So after your life basically came crashing down financially, personally, career. So what was it that enabled you to sort of come back from that?
Yeah, a huge amount of resilience.
Yes, exactly. Well, of course, obviously you need that for sure. Belief in self-love, resilience.
Yeah, it was a really long and intense personal development journey. Some of the pivotal points were hiring a coach. I realized that I didn't have any support in my immediate circle. And I found that friendships dropped away because people couldn't handle the intensity of what was going on for me.
Wow.
And how much, what I was dealing with, and they couldn't really support me or they didn't know how to relate to it, especially around grief. I think a lot of people, unless they've experienced it, they don't know how to handle someone going through that. And plus I'd also moved countries. So from the outside, people thought I was living the dream and they couldn't relate to that because suddenly I had this magical, wildly abundant, incredible life. And I was doing what I loved and I had multiple homes and, I had this fabulous life on the outside and yet all of this going on behind the scenes. I just, I hit rock bottom financially. My ex-partner also hit some problems and was no longer even available for a conversation about divorce. So I was trapped in this marriage that had fallen apart but couldn't move forwards because of his challenges. I think that I just realized I had to sort this money thing out. I actually remember that. I'm like, wow, I'm totally on my own. And because my business had been affected, I was like, I'm just going to learn everything there is to know about money. I remember I've literally got a picture of me, a really unflattering, horrible picture of me sat like looking at these personal development books, like a selfie, thinking like, I'm just going to figure this out. I'm just going to decide. And I started reading and studying as much as I could and just praying and asking to be shown the next step. I remember not even having enough money to put petrol in the car. I remember just praying. I made a big curry for the week, because I was like, okay, I've got enough food for the week. And like, I'm still here. So I'm supposed to be here. That was my rationing. If this was supposed to be over, something else would happen and I would go. So obviously I'm being kept here for a reason. So there's a purpose to my life. And even if I can't see it or feel it, it's there because I'm still here.
Yeah, and I love that mindset so much. And I love that you were able to, get to that place and use that mindset to drive you forward, even in your darkest of days, knowing that you're here and you're here for a purpose. And even though it might not be right in front of you, you're going to find it and figure out what it is.
Yeah, so exactly. And like, many of our times of great difficulty, it's only when I look back, and see the purpose of why didn't I have anyone around really supporting me, or, why wasn't there someone offering to give me some money to help me through this tough time? And it's like, yeah, but that's how I developed my emotional resilience. That's how I developed my gifts, my skills, my strength, and how I can now help others, because I was in that unique position. And each of our unique positions is going to be different, but they're each going to equip us with the skills and the qualities we need to then go and help others.
Absolutely. Because, none of us live a challenge-free life. And to your point, sometimes people look at others and say, oh, they have all this and they have that, and she's in Ibiza and she's living her best life, not realizing all of the challenges that you're going through. But, every single one of us have challenges, but the challenges are really there to sort of bring forth that latent potential that lies within us that we're just, waiting to pull forth, it's there within us. But sometimes as we're going through the challenges, we are not able to see it right away.
100%. It's only with hindsight I can make sense of this journey. At the time, I was just trying to survive and pay my mortgage and eat. And it was as simple as that.
And so you have survived. You are, a successful coach. And I love how you tie spirituality with money and use it to heal mental blocks. So let's talk about that. I'd love to know how you sort of were able to tie the two together, but I'm assuming it's because, like you said, you prayed and you asked for guidance. And my assumption would be that the guidance came.
Yeah, one step led to another. So I hired a coach. Then that coach told me about someone she trained with. They were just starting a course. I took that course. I learned a lot about coaching. And through that journey, I accidentally birthed a second business. But as I grew, my first business started to thrive as well. And so I started to achieve goals way higher than I'd thought possible. So where I thought it was as good as it gets, it turned out it wasn't. It turned out it could get even better. And I
love
achieved
that.
A lifelong goal of shooting for Martha Stewart weddings in the US. I got the cover of that magazine, which again was something bigger than I was even expecting. I started getting commissioned by them to shoot celebrity weddings. So my existing career went up with how I grew and what I learned. But then I launched this new career as a coach. And the coaching led to then wanting to help people on a deeper level clear their blocks, because I was working with people and then there was still blocks. So that then led me to healing and intuitive work. And then that opened up a whole new area. So every step led to another area. And then when I was doing the healing work, I realized where I was most successful was in helping people make money. That seemed to be my superpower. And so the more I practiced, the more I worked on that, the more I looked at the work I was doing, the more that grew. Because when we focus on something and put energy into it, it grows and it develops. And I learned from all my clients along the way, and then started seeing commonalities. And that's how the sort of body of work evolved.
That's amazing. So how do you, when you work with a client, how do you clear their money blocks? Are you channeling, assessing them? How does that work?
The first thing which I'd love to share is what you touched on about money being a spiritual journey.
Yes, yes,
So
yes.
I really believe that. And that came through the more work I did with money, because as we lean into making more money, as we set the intention to make more money, and as we learn to make it, hold on to it, and spend it, because that can also be a challenge, letting go of it and making money work for us, we're actually making the decision to embrace more of our potential and become more of who we really are and express more of ourselves into the world and make a greater difference in the world. Because as we express more of ourselves into the world, we make more of a difference in whatever way that is. Sometimes it's directly helping, teaching or coaching people, but sometimes it's releasing products into the world. It's delivering other services. It's performing, if you're an artist or creative. And so it's like a selfless decision to go and make more money, because it's actually about sharing more of yourself with the world.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's amazing. And it sounds like so many of us unconsciously block money from our lives. So how do we do that? And we're unconsciously blocking money. Why is that?
Ultimately, it's to keep ourselves safe. It's because we believe on a subconscious level that it's dangerous to have more money.
Okay.
So there can be different reasons that we have seen as a child, negative experiences, or had negative programming around having more money, or we saw something bad happen to an uncle that got really successful. We saw someone separated from the family. We maybe were experienced divorce. And so we blamed and arguments around money with our parents. So there can be past experiences where money has negative connotations. So unconsciously, we make a vow to be like, well, I don't want anything to do with that. Or we can be given programming that says, money's not important. Family. I've worked with clients who are like, family's important. That's what's really important. We've got each other. We don't need money.
Right.
So there can be a pride and a humility in poverty.
Yes.
Other ways that we believe it's not safe to have more money is looking forward. So let's say you're a mother with children and you want to grow your business and make more money, but you worry that you're going to have less time to spend with your children. You're going to be preoccupied, or you feel guilty. Or you might worry that you'll get more distant from your family because you won't be like them. Everybody earns the same kind of money or has the same kind of job. And then suddenly, if you become wildly successful, you're going to be different. And what's that going to mean for your relationships? So there's a couple of ways there that, we can block money coming in because we unconsciously worry we're going to be different if we make more money, or we can be worried about the negative consequences if we make more money.
Yeah. And I think that that's a common one, especially for women and especially for moms, like you said, that, if they follow their dreams or put themselves out there, that they're not going to have time for their kids, or, and it's just like a whole spiral of story that we tell ourselves as women, and not realizing that when you think that way, then you are truly blocking, right? You're not opening and allowing yourself to the abundance that the universe has for you. If you're telling yourself the story that, it's, I can't really do that because of my kids and I don't want to take time away. And when meanwhile, it's really the opposite. If you have the money flowing in, all of a sudden you have more flexibility and freedom to do what you want.
Yeah. But that fear of getting overwhelmed or fear of not having enough time, that can block people even starting. The irony is that as you make more money, you are able to receive more support, and you can actually end up working less in a lot of cases.
Yeah, so true.
Grow your business, raise your rates, work less, have more support, charge higher rates to a smaller number of clients, get people who are experts to help you grow your business. But essentially we block money coming in to protect ourselves, so that we either don't feel bad or we don't experience bad consequences. And also there's like a set point that we believe we're kind of worth. And so a big part of changing your relationship with money is changing your relationship with yourself and what you feel you're worthy and deserving of.
Yeah. And how do you recommend people start doing that? Right? I mean, how are you able to look at yourself in the mirror and say, I am worthy? I mean, is that really just part of it? Just changing the story, changing your mindset?
Yeah, there's definitely practical aspects. The thing I say around self-worth and money is that this sounds kind of like opposites here, because the first thing you want to do is actually detach your self-worth from money.
Okay.
Because so many of us attach, oh, I had a really great month. Oh, I feel really good. It's kind of natural, right?
Of course, exactly.
But when we attach our self-worth to how much money we're making, it yo-yos up and down, because when you run your own business, you are going to experience ups and downs. That's how it is. Even people that have funnels set up to sell products, every single entrepreneur I've ever met, their income is not consistent. It goes up and down depending on stages of life, stages of business, what's going on for you, the greater world. We are not completely in control of money. We want to be, but we are not. There's many factors. So when your self-worth is so closely tied to money, you're on a roller coaster ride. It's like, oh my gosh, I just booked a new client. I feel amazing. I'm worthy. Yeah. I'm wanted. And it's like, oh no, I've got 3 no's in a row. Oh my God, I'm terrible. I feel awful. We're on this roller coaster.
So true. So true.
So the first thing we want to do is detach our self-worth from money. And then the second thing we want to do is increase our self-worth, because I'm sure you've heard of that phrase, your net worth can never outstrip your self-worth.
Yes, I love that. I love that.
So we want to be finding ways to value ourselves and our skills more. And that can be done through practical exercises, like making a list of all of your life experience that can contribute, of all of your past work experience, of why you're good at what you do. Like very clear practical exercises can really help. And then at the same time, we want to be and affirmations, they can be helpful. But then we also want to be releasing all of the past messaging that says we're not worthy. And a lot of that comes from childhood, from things you could be literally told or you were unconsciously told. A lot of the women I work with, they were valued as less than their brothers. That's super common. Parents grew up in a different era. They value women differently, girl children, different to boy children. And so you may have got messages that you were just expected to find a good husband, to be taken care of, marry well. I think it's amazing. Like, they seem incredible to us right now, but these programs, they were alive and well when I was growing up.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And what's funny is I can only imagine if my daughters heard that, like, oh, just marry well, they'd be like mortified and shocked. But that was, like you said, alive and well when we were growing up. I think we're similar ages. So that was there.
Yeah. And that's amazing that your daughters are growing up, through your guidance with different programming and different expectations about their life. That's so powerful.
It really is. And it's just wonderful and fascinating to see how the messages have changed. And it's such a great thing. How can people, because I know, some people feel really guilty about spending money, no matter how much money people have, whether it's a lot or a little, there's guilt around spending money a lot of times. How do people get over that?
This is funny. This is the theme of this week. Guilt's been coming up a lot across the board in my program sessions. First thing I'll say is that women feel way more guilt than men.
Yes. Oh, for sure.
Not exclusively, but women feel a lot more guilt. Some of the things that play into that, if you have any Catholic upbringing in your background, you're almost definitely going to feel guilty. Every single person who has Catholic family or upbringing is like schooled in guilt.
Yes, about everything. And yes. that includes myself. And, it is amazing how much work I have done to have to sort of reverse that Catholic guilt. It's there, it's alive, it's true. It just is.
Yeah, that's interesting. That was the first one I mentioned today. I must have picked that up from you. Probably.
It's alive and well, as you said.
Other things are to look at when we were children. And this is where having support can be helpful. But look at the first time you were made to feel bad about having something you wanted.
Okay.
When did you start to feel guilty? I remember literally being told, the starving children in Africa eat all your food.
Yeah.
And messages like that. I had brothers, I had siblings. And I remember as a child taking a biscuit off the table and then taking a bite out of it and then being told it's the last one, you've got to share it with your brother. And I turned the biscuit round and I took a bite out the other side. so that I wouldn't have to share it.
I love it.
But I would have got really told off for that. So then it's that thing about, if I have what I want, I feel really bad.
Yeah.
And these programs are like, these sound like fun. They are funny, small incidences, but they, knowing that most of our unconscious programming started before the age of 6, these early events are very seminal in how we feel about things being good, how we feel about having what we want. And my own mother, I remember growing up, she would always feel guilty when she bought something. So as the only daughter in the family, I saw that it's good to buy for others. She said she was always buying beautiful gifts for others. She was a great gift giver. I was taught it's really good to give to others, but if she'd buy something for herself, she would try and get it on sale or buy the cheapest option. And then she would also feel really bad about it. She wouldn't celebrate it. So I didn't grow up seeing that it was good to spend money on yourself. I grew up being a great gift giver.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful thing to do, but I've had to learn over the last 10 years, it's okay to spend money on myself. It's okay.
Yeah. It's to give yourself the gifts as well.
Yeah. So I think to answer your question, where does the guilt from? Sometimes it's religious and upbringing. Sometimes it's childhood events when we have something good, but a bad consequence happened. It could be someone was jealous of our toy. It could be that we were told off for being greedy, like I was with the biscuit.
Yeah.
It could be that we were made to feel wrong, or we experienced negative consequences of having something, or we could have just had the programming, as some of my clients have had. It's like, well, you just don't get what you want because we're poor. This is how it is.
Yeah. Right. Deal with it. Suck it up.
Yeah. Suck it up. Or it's wrong to keep you in mind. And maybe you were told, like, you asked for something, I want a new pram for Christmas, I want a new doll. And they said, we can't afford that. Or your mum felt really bad. Or maybe you witnessed her cry because she couldn't give you what you want. And so you immediately started to shut down your desires. And think, gosh, if I express what I want, it makes other people feel bad.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of ways we shut down what we want, or we punish ourselves. It's like a way of repenting. Oh, if I have something good, if I punish myself, it will balance out. It's a super fascinating subject, but it generally involves going back and then also looking at what messages does society give us.
Exactly. It is really fascinating because I think a lot of us don't take the time to reflect on, the programming that, like you said, started in childhood, and even the unconscious programming that we saw and didn't realize, around money and how people lived around us and the story that we were told. So I want to ask you one more question, because I love that you said, earlier in the conversation, about sort of putting yourself out there and that money needs to see you. So what do you mean by that?
Yeah. So this, along with self-worth, I would say with the people I work with, visibility is the second biggest money block.
Okay.
I mean, there's a whole bunch of money blocks, but I would say with the people that come to me, these are the two biggest ones I see that are holding them back from raising their income. For money, okay, other people are not the source of your money, even though we think they are. Even though I think my next client is the source of my money, they're not really. Source, the universe, God, spirit is the source of your money, but money comes through people. So it comes down from source and then it comes through people. And so people need to be able to find us and see us and know about what we offer in order to give us money. So in order to receive money, we have to be seen by people. But a lot of people are very fearful about being seen in the world. And this was me. I loved being a photographer in my previous life, but I did not want to have to be seen as the face of the business. I didn't want to have to put myself out there. I had a lot of fear around judgment, what people would think, a lot of fear around being criticized. And I think this is only accelerated in this era of social media.
Oh, completely.
Because it's free reign for people to say whatever they want, for people to project their unhealed stuff onto other people's comments and posts and opinions. And so there's a new level of resilience needed when you put yourself out into the world. And the problem is you can be the most amazing coach, you can be the most amazing healer, create the most incredible products. But if nobody knows about you, you're not going to make money because people can't see you, so money can't flow to you.
Right.
So part of the journey to be able to receive more money is being able to get comfortable with being seen in the world. And that can mean quite literally physically, like having your face as the brand of the business.
Yeah.
And even if you have a separate brand, it can be also about being willing to put yourself out there, share your thoughts, your feelings, your ideas on social media and in newsletters, and being willing to contact people, being willing to speak up, be heard, be seen in the world without the fear that you're going to be attacked, criticized, judged, or rejected.
Yeah, that's really awesome advice, because not only just for flow of money, but for, I think, joy and happiness as well. Really being able to, get past sort of all the BS and just do what brings you joy and not worry about being judged or criticized, or, what someone down the street or 3 towns over or whatever it may be, or, someone in another country is going to think of you on social media. It's really about becoming comfortable with yourself and who you are and what you have to share, all of the gifts that you have to share with the world.
Totally.
It's really awesome. Well,
Polly, and the more visible I got comfortable with being, the more money flowed into me. But there was a direct relationship between how visible I was and how much money I made.
Yeah. No, I mean, it makes complete sense. Everything that you've talked about today makes so much sense. All of the money blocks, about the guilt that we have around money, and, self-worth. It's all so connected and tied in. And I think that my hope is that all of the listeners today, really will take the time to sort of think back about their childhood and think about their relationship with money and think about their thoughts and how their thoughts are affecting their outcomes with money. Just because, like I say, with everything starts with our thoughts and, the allowing that we do, the stories that we tell ourselves. And I want to thank you so much for being here today, for sharing all of this amazing information with us, because I know I've learned a lot, and I hope everyone else has as well.
You're so welcome. Thank you so much for having me on the show. And I love that you mentioned joy to finish, because one of the best ways to bring more money in is actually to start to create a joyful relationship with money. So start to give yourself small amounts of money or whatever you can do, and go have fun with it. Go play with it. Allow the energy of money to support you. And look at ways that you can bring more joy into your life, because joy is a higher vibration energy, and that's also magnetic to money. The more you can bring joy and happiness and appreciation and gratitude, the more easily money is going to come into you. So I think joy is a perfect place to close. Thank you, Crissy.
Oh my gosh. Absolutely. I love that. That last piece of advice is just so impactful, right? And because we're here to live joyful lives, and, taking a little bit of money and having fun, finding joy, go do it, everybody. I'd say do it today.
Totally. Thing about money is that it's supposed to flow.
Yes.
And when we get in fear, we hold on to it. But what we do is we actually squeeze the flow when we hold on to it. So when you're in fear about not having enough money, one of the best things you can do is go let go of some, either give it away to someone or go spend it, because that affirms that more is on its way. It feels really uncomfortable to do, but if you can do that, you'll see the results.
I have no doubt. Thank you so much for all of this amazing advice. You guys can find Polly Alexandre on Instagram at Polly Alexandre, and your website is pollyalexandre.com.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. So check her out, guys. She has a lot of amazing information to share. And listen, at the end of the day, who doesn't want more money?
Right. It's such an uplifting energy. That's the thing. Money can really energize you. When you bring more of it in, you'll feel more and more energy.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for being here all the way from Ibiza. I'm going to sign out from Philadelphia. And all of my listeners, I hope you enjoyed this episode of Suburban Warrior Podcast. Subscribe, rate, and review. Tell us what you think. And we'll be back next week with another amazing warrior story for you.